I'd like to welcome everybody to the Planning Commission meeting and call it to order. And is there any changes to the agenda? Okay, is there a motion to adopt the agenda? Second. Motion second, adopt the agenda. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Need approval of the minutes from January the 12th, or any additions or corrections at this time? If not, is there a motion to approve? Second motion second to approve the minutes of January 12, 2012. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are now official. Got several members of the council. Councilman Domine, not in the room.
I'll speak at the time.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Pridemore, you want to speak now or you want to wait? Okay. Council Lady Weiner.
I'll speak at the time it comes up.
Okay. Council Lady Johnson.
I'll speak at the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, it's going to be on deferral.
You want me to go ahead and address that?
If you'd like to, because once it's on deferral, then it'll be passed, and so.
Well, given the discussion that happened today in the planning session that took place right before this meeting convened, it is quite clear that additional discussion needs to take place in looking at a possible amendment to accomplish the goal that we were seeking with this bill with the council. So I would like to formally ask that this be deferred to give the staff the opportunity to work with you, as well as give the council an opportunity to work with the staff in coming up with something that is more in line with an amendment per se. I guess that's answering what I need to say. I don't know.
Okay, thank you. We'll put it on the deferral agenda then.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have in the audience Dr. Paul from the Metropolitan Health Department, if he would like to say something this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. I'll be brief. I'm here in support of the Bellevue Community Plan. I'm here as your Metro Public Health Director and as the Director of the Health Department. I have a keen interest in Nashville's health. The mayor, too, has an interest in Nashville's health and our need as a community to become healthier. We know more and more, we're recognizing more connections between the built environment and our health. And I want to endorse the plan that's been put forward and commend the planning department on including public health and questions about our health as the Bellevue Community Plan was put together. There are a lot of different ways in which the built environment does affect our health, and we're really encouraged to see that thought process be included as this plan was developed. So that's really all I wanted to say. Thank you. And
thank you. Are there any other councilmen in the audience that I may have overlooked? And any items on deferral, which I know we do have some.
Yes, we do have some items on deferral. Let's begin on page 4. You have one item to be withdrawn. That's item number 2, Antioch Priest Lake Community Plan Amendment. The purpose was to change the land use policy from industrial and distribution to natural conservation and residential low-medium for various properties located along Antioch Pike, Blue Hole Road, and Hickory Hollow Parkway. We're asking you to withdraw this application at this time. And this subject will be folded into the update for the Antioch Community Plan. And then moving on to deferred items, on page 4, we have a request to defer item number 1A, the Antioch Priest Lake Community Plan 2003 update. This is a request to amend the community plan to change the land use policy from residential low-medium to neighborhood evolving and conservation for property at 2158 Una Antioch Pike, and the request is to defer till February 9th. An associated item 1B is Meadows Downs, a request to rezone from R10 to SP zoning property at 2158 Una Antioch Pike to permit a maximum of 70 dwelling units within an assisted living or nursing facility. And the request is also to defer until February 9th. Item number 3 is also requested by the applicant sponsor, Council Lady Johnson, for deferral. This is Tri-Face Billboards. It's a request to amend Chapter 1740 of the Metro Code to prohibit the conversion of non-conforming static billboards to Tri-Face billboards. And the request is to defer one meeting at the sponsor's request for the purpose of developing an amendment. Item number 4 on page 5 is a request to amend Chapter 1740 of the Metro Code relative to the destruction of non-conforming signs, and the staff recommendation is to follow the request of the sponsor to defer indefinitely. And then on page 8, item number 14, it's a request to revise the preliminary plan and for final approval for a portion of the Old Hickory Commons residential PUD on various properties along Sprucedale Drive between Beaver Creek Way and Saddle Creek Way to permit 23 single-family lots where 47 multifamily units were previously approved. And the staff recommends deferral to the February 9th Planning Commission meeting. And that's the end of the deferral and withdrawal agenda.
Heard the items be withdrawn or on deferral. Is there any questions? Is there a motion to accept these on deferral? Motion second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Those items are now officially deferred. Items on consent, Ann.
Okay, before we move to consent, let me provide the audience with this information. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. Now, moving on to the consent agenda, items on the consent agenda will be voted on at a single time. No individual public hearing will be held, nor will the commission debate these items unless a member of the audience or the commission requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. So, recommended for your consent agenda today are the following items. Beginning on page 5, item number 5, this is the town's auto sales, a request to rezone from CS to SP and for final site plan approval for property at 5909 Charlotte Pike to permit auto repair, automobile sales, used, and all other uses permitted by the CS district. Staff recommends approval of the SP with conditions and disapproval without the conditions. Item number 6 on page 5 is Riverside Drive, a request to extend the concept plan approval for 1 year for an 18-lot subdivision on properties at Riverside Drive unnumbered at the northwest corner of Riverside Drive and Huntley Drive. Staff recommends approval of the concept plan extension to January 26, 2013. On page 6, item number 7, Kennelwood. This is a request for final plat approval to create 4 lots and dedicate easements on property located at 4200 Kennelwood Drive. Staff recommends approval with conditions. And on page 7, item number 11, this is a preservation permit singling out economic hardship. This is a request to modify the Metro zoning code to add a new subsection 8, determination of economic hardship for historic preservation permits. Staff recommends approval. Item number 12, H&M Motors, a request to amend the SP district for the previously approved H&M Motors specific plan located at 1525 4th Avenue South to permit auto sales new, auto sales used, auto service, and all uses permitted by the MUL-A zoning district, and to remove the condition for a sidewalk along Mallory Street. Staff recommends approval with conditions, including a revised condition number 1 to exclude auto repair as a permitted use. Also on page 7, item number 13, 105 Dueling Avenue, a request to rezone from OR20 to MUL, property located at 105 Dueling Avenue, and staff recommends approval of this rezoning request. On page 8, item number 15 is at 209 Daniel Crest. It's a request to approve a neighborhood landmark development plan for property located at 209 Dania Crest to permit a general office use within an existing 4,800 square foot structure. Staff recommends approval with conditions, including conditions added by the applicant on January 25th, 2012. Item number 16 is an MOA between the Nashville Area MPO and the Clarksville Urbanized Area MPO regarding cost sharing for the Regional Household Travel Survey being conducted by Weststat per contract L2672, and staff recommends approval. Item number 17 is an employment contract renewal for Anita McKeag, and staff recommends approval. Also, item number 18 is a new employment contract for Jennifer Mucho Hill. Staff recommends approval. And that's the end of the consent agenda.
Okay, the items that staff is recommended to be on consent are items 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, and 18. There's a motion to accept those. Motion second for approval. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, for the audience, the items that will be on public hearing today are items 8, which is a Bellevue update. Item 9 is the major and collector streets. And item 10A and B, which is the Antioch Lake Plan Amendment and Hickory Make Investments GP properties. Those will be the only items that will be on public hearing today.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is item 8. It's a request to adopt the Bellevue Community Plan. The Bellevue community is located southwest of downtown Nashville along the western edge of Davidson County. It's a large geographic area comprised of several smaller communities, and the majority of our team's work was spent in the Bellevue area since that's where the majority of people live, work, and interact. During 2011, we held 8 community workshops and meetings with over 330 people participating. The community has also been very engaged via the Bellevue webpage with over 2,500 hits. As you see on this slide, some common themes quickly became evident and have been emphasized throughout the process. We asked community stakeholders to envision what they value about the community and what they would like to add. They envision a community where natural features, rural and suburban character, and established neighborhoods are preserved. Centers are enhanced with more services and a mixture of uses, and the community has more walking, biking, and transit choices. The community has numerous city parks, state parks, and greenways, and it also has almost 30,000 acres of land with environmentally sensitive features. Staff built on the work done as part of the Nashville Open Space Plan, creating green space in each bend of the river and along the Harpeth River, and a resident also shared the concept of linking Radnor Lake to Beeman Park via a trail system, greenways, and park connections. Here you see conservation policy in green. It covers the community's floodways, floodplains, steep slopes, ridge tops, problem soils, and view sheds. Here's the open space network for the northern portion of the community. You see the pale yellow color, that's conservation policy, and there are numerous opportunities within that for increasing park space. In addition to the Radnor to River Trail, there's a ridgetop trail that connects the Cumberland River to the Harpeth River. Here's a map for the southern portion. It includes greenways along the length of the Harpeth River, park space including the large Warner Parks and its new addition, and the northern terminus of the Natchez Trace Parkway is here. The team looked at ways one enhancement can benefit both the transportation and open space networks. And one concept is a multi-use path along Highway 100 that connects Warner Parks to Natchez Trace and the Loveless Cafe area. This would reduce the need for separate sidewalk, bikeway, and greenway systems. Moving on to residential policies, The community plan encourages housing choice by making the distinction between rural neighborhoods and suburban neighborhoods. The plan also encourages appropriate infill opportunities by making the distinction between maintenance and evolving neighborhoods. Rural residential policy areas are shown in the shades of green, and suburban residential policy areas are shown in shades of pink. Together, conservation, open space, and residential policies cover 96% of the plan area. In Bellevue, there are two different types of centers, neighborhood centers and community centers. That includes 1 rural neighborhood center, 2 suburban neighborhood centers, and 5 suburban community centers. Currently, these centers are focused around important intersections in a compact pattern, and we feel they're adequate to serve the community during the planning period. The center areas are shown in red on this map. They range from the older commercial area of Old Hickory Boulevard and Highway 70 to the newer commercial at Highway 100 and Old Harding, and the soon-to-be-built Biltmore area at McCory Lane. Staff analyzed Bellevue's existing commercial centers in ways that older centers could be revitalized and enhanced. One way is to include a mixture of uses, including some residential, offices, and employment opportunities to boost commercial services. Another idea is infill on out parcels where parking is no longer needed. Shown on this slide, staff worked with the community, council members, and the Bellevue Mall representatives on several ideas for redeveloping the mall property. Here's a map of the community character. The majority is rural, shown in olive green, and suburban, shown in light pink. As part of the plan update, we continued our partnership with the health department, working with the community on increasing Bellevue's health and sustainability as part of our meetings and policy discussions. We've also worked closely with Metro Stormwater to discuss water quality and quantity issues and include language in the plan that talks about the importance of protecting headwater areas and waterways. We have one addition that came after the staff report. This is at the request of a property owner, and this is a rewording of a special policy for a property along Coley Davis Road. The new text is shown in red and clarifies that the property also has a commercial PUD in addition to commercial zoning. Staff recommends approval of the Bellevue plan with the one addition mentioned previously, and we'd like to thank the Bellevue community for all their hard work. Now, Michael. Yep. Can you get your
Sure. There's just one brief slide on the Major and Collector Street plan that's related to the Bellevue community plan. And so you also have, I believe it's agenda item number 8. It's a housekeeping amendment to the Major and Collector Street plan, and that's related to, again, the Bellevue community plan update. The designations of the streets are changing due to new understanding of these streets during the update process. And so staff recommends approval of only the Bellevue-related amendments involving agenda item 8. There are 2 other Major and Collector Street plan items involving errors in local streets that were in the package, and staff requests deferral of those amendments to the February 23rd meeting. And I have more information prepared on any of the amendments in case there are questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Both item 8 and 9 will be on public hearing, but the commission will vote on them separately. So anyone wishing to speak in favor of either item 8 or 9, if you come forward to the microphone and give us your name and your address.
Good afternoon. Sherry Weiner, Metro Council District 22. I want to, first of all, commend the wonderful, wonderful job that the staff did. They engaged the community. The community came out typical Bellevue fashion in droves. Everybody was enthusiastic. They addressed the areas of interest that our primary folks that were involved had, and some of those issues they've already addressed, so I'm not going to recreate the wheel or repeat what they said. And so I would just encourage you to adopt the plan and approve it so that we can get this thing moving. Thank you. And I also want to thank Tim Sidema with the Inland Bellevue Mall property owners because he really came through in being involved in the process as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Second. Motion second to close the public hearing on both item 8 and 9, and we'll discuss them jointly, but then we'll vote on them separately. So, Andre.
I just think it's really exciting. It's a lot of work, and it's yet another good plan.
Greg?
I think that too. Looked like appreciate the staff working so hard, and I've been involved in several of these plans, and it's a good sign when nobody opposes the plan. So good job.
Eric? Blackman.
Yes, I reviewed the staff's recommendations on this, and after reviewing, and I apologize about coming in late today, but I was the only person in my department today at work, so I had to stay a little extra there. Nonetheless, I do plan on supporting staff's recommendation. I think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Jeff?
No comments.
Hunter?
I'd too just like to commend the staff and the Bellevue community, and excited about the interest in the Bellevue Mall and the owners to redevelop that. So, thank you.
Stuart? It's a black one.
I actually, knowing this community, I realized that the lack of conflict is not because nobody cared, but because a lot of hard work went into bringing people together. So it really is an interesting and commendable result. Yes.
Thank you.
Great job,
Councilman?
I attended the work session that we had on this, where we went into it in more detail than she's gone through here, and it's a lot of work that's gone in here on a lot of different people, and there's evidence that the community was engaged, and so kudos to the staff members that were part of that and to the community. I think you've come up with something that everybody's on board with, so I think it's, if it's appropriate, I recommend that we approve.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, motion to approve staff recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
With the
On number 8, yeah. We're doing number 8.
Okay, the motion is to approve item 8 with staff recommendations. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8 is now approved. Item 9, any discussion on that, or is there a motion to approve that with the staff recommendations for the deferrals?
I'll move that we approve staff recommendation.
Second. Okay, got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're now down to item 10A.
Good afternoon. I'm here to present the plan amendment request for the Antioch.
Tiffany, let me interrupt you just a minute.
Oh, okay.
I did not recognize that former Commissioner Jones was in the audience, and I'd like to recognize that. She's on her way out, but I apologize, I did not see you. Okay. Tiffany, go ahead.
Okay. This is the plan amendment request for the Antioch Priest Lake community. This plan amendment is located in the southeast portion of Davidson County. And the applicant's request is to amend the land use policy from natural conservation and residential medium density policies to conservation and district industrial policies. So this is the plan amendment site. The existing policies on the property are residential medium density And residential medium density encourages residential development between 4 to 9 dwelling units per acre. Various building types are found appropriate, single and two-family townhomes, and even walk-up garden-style apartments. Also on the site, applied to the site, is natural conservation policy, which encourages the preservation of environmentally sensitive features. And this is just zooming out a little bit further. So here's your site, and here are some surrounding land use policies. Residential low-medium policies are residential. There's some more industrial to the north, and then some other mixed-use corridor policies along Antioch Pike to the west. And what the applicant is proposing is a policy change to district industrial policy. This policy also allows industrial land uses, but also some commercial as well. And conservation policy, which this will be your Community Character Manual or CCM conservation policy, which it also encourages the preservation of environmentally sensitive features, but provides just a little bit more guidance on how to do that. So just some information about the site. The site is approximately 40.1 acres. Mill Creek, floodplain and floodway are where the conservation policies would be applied. There are some steep slopes on the site, which some of the conservation policy would catch that as well. This site is approximately about a mile and a half from the airport. It's also about a mile from Interstate 24, which is here to your west. And the site is accessed by Arterial and Collector Street, so you have Harding Place, Antioch Pike, and then it's directly accessed by Franklin Limestone Road. And it should be noted here that right now there's restrictions on truck traffic on Franklin Limestone Road traveling east towards Murfreesboro Pike. So the primary route for any traffic to this site in terms of truck traffic would be Franklin Limestone Road to Antioch Pike to Harding Place and then I-24. So just looking at I looked at the land use and the policy near the site. So looking at just land use, how land is being used 1 mile from the site, there's approximately 285 acres of industrial land uses. Now, when you include Vulcan Enterprises, which they do mining, and there's a quarry out there, that site is approximately 360 acres. So when you add that site in, it does bump that number up a little bit. But taking that large site out, there's 285 acres of industrial land. There's 445 acres of residential land uses 1 mile from the site. So this area is predominantly more residential than industrial in nature. Looking at land use policy, zooming out a little bit and looking at land use policy within 2 miles of the site, there's approximately 130 acres of vacant land within industrial policy in this area. So it seems like you would have a lot of industrial land in this area. However, when you think about some of the constraints, this is Mill Creek and the floodplain associated with Mill Creek. Some of this land is not ideal perhaps for heavy industrial land uses. So, and then also with the proximity of residential land uses, that also adds another constraint to some of these properties. And I want to talk a little bit about the history of this area. So in 2003, the Antioch Priest Lake plan was updated and adopted. And in that plan update, industrial policy was applied in this area. When the industrial policy was applied in this area, it was applied to follow some steep slopes or a ridge line, and it was staff's intent at that time to never bring industrial policy all the way to Franklin Limestone Road. And also there's a small area of RLM policy to the south on the site, which the staff's intent was to always have some type of residential or land use buffer between the industrial to the north and then the residential to the south. So then shortly thereafter in 2004, the policy was amended to residential medium policy. And looking at the past staff reports from that case and an associated zone change case, the reasoning that staff used was that the RM policy was a more appropriate land use transition between the industrial and the residential to the south. I also wanted to bring your attention to, in 2008, staff and then ultimately the Planning Commission, ultimately the council approved the Bakertown specific plan. And the Bakertown was an effort by the neighborhood just west on the other side of Antioch Pike, because what happened in that case, you had residential abutting industrial land uses, and over time those industrial land uses became impactful to those areas. So policies were applied to create an appropriate transition between industrial and residential in that area. So this set a precedent for handling those types of situations in this in the Antioch Priest Lake community. So on January the 10th, we held a community meeting, staff did, and the applicant and the council member was in attendance. Approximately 15 people from surrounding neighborhoods were in attendance, and questions and concerns range from, truck traffic on Franklin Limestone Road, blasting impacts on residential structures in the area, and then just general concerns about noise and odor and what that would do to surrounding residential areas. I handed out some questionnaires asking them about, some of these issues, and they cited these reasons above as to why the industrial policy was inappropriate to apply at the time. So in conclusion, the 2004 plan amendment revealed that RM policy was a more appropriate policy for the reason that it does provide an appropriate transition between industrial land uses and the lower density residential land uses. Some of those, and then there are also some impacts of the operational characteristics of the industrial development that could occur if industrial policy is applied to the site, so including the truck traffic, any blasting, and the noise and odor. And then also staff considered the precedent that was set in this area via the Bakertown SP. So the recommendation is to disapprove the policy amendment.
Thank you.
Okay, this next item is the zone change associated with the policy amendment that was just presented by Tiffany. The property is outlined in red. Tiffany did a pretty good job of describing the property. As you can see, it's pretty heavily wooded. There are some steep slopes on the site. Staff is recommending disapproval of the request. The current zoning for this is multifamily residential RM9. This is also within the floodplain overlay, which is the areas in the blue, which is associated with Mill Creek. The proposed zoning is specific plan industrial. The current policies are residential medium and natural conservation. The proposed industrial specific plan would not be consistent with the residential policy. This is the site plan. As you can see, it doesn't propose any specific development. It's a regulatory plan. It would permit all uses found in the IWD, which is the industrial warehousing district. It also would permit an asphalt plant and temporary mining, which would be associated with the construction of the asphalt plant. Those two uses are classified as heavy manufacturing and are only permitted in the IG zoning district of the zoning code. The developable area is approximately 20 acres, and that is the area that's in gray and outlined in red. This area would be the area that would be impacted by development. Restricted areas is the other half of the property, which is approximately 20 acres that consists of floodplain and buffer yards. The area in green, which is closer to the north of the site, which is approximately 6 acres, the developer has proposed to dedicate to parks. If this is not accepted by parks, then it would become permanent open space. The buffer yard along the southern property line, which is closest to the residential area, single-family residential area, is approximately 150 feet. This is some pictures, another photo of the site. This is showing you Quiet Creek. Right now, the blue line here, this section hasn't been approved yet or hasn't been constructed. It has have a final site plan, so houses will go here in the future. And this is just a view of the final plan, the plat that was approved. So houses would be within this area. Again, this is the subject site, Franklin Limestone Pike, Quiet Creek here. This is a view from Quiet Creek Court looking towards the site. This is another view looking another direction. In conclusion, staff is recommending disapproval as a request is not consistent with the current land use policy. If the Planning Commission approves, then staff recommends that it be approved with all staff conditions. Thanks.
One question. I saw in there temporary mining. Give me a definition of that.
They've asked basically for grading. Anytime you have a site that this site has topography issues as far as it's got steep slopes, you can grade anytime on a property to get it prepped for development. In this instance, they will be selling the material that they're grading off the site on site, which is classified as mineral extraction, which is mining.
Would that be any different if it's RM40 and they built apartments?
You would be able to grade the site. Now, if it was RM4, you wouldn't be able to sell the material off the site, which would be, again, a mineral extraction in the zoning code, which is mining.
So if they build an asphalt plant, they can haul the dirt off and sell it, but if they build apartments, they can't? Is that what you're
Just
saying?
for this SP. That is something that's in this SP. You couldn't do that if it was zoned IG and it was permitted by the zoning. You wouldn't be able to do that by right.
They're requesting that specific ability to sell.
Under the SP.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. This item is open for public hearing. You can discuss items 10A and 10B, but then the commission will vote on those separately. And the councilman, you go ahead and speak, and then the applicant will be given 10 minutes, and you can keep 2 minutes of those for rebuttal if you like.
I don't see the button. Is the microphone on?
Just hit the black button that there's a green and a...
I think it's on. It appears to be already on. There's no button I can reach without getting on the floor. I'm here to address a number of concerns. If I can speak first on the community plan change, which was changed in 2003, voted on the council in 2004. There are concerns within the community about that plan and the addition of apartments. And according to staff report that was publicized in 2003, that would put additional 1,500 to 1,600 road trips on Franklin Limestone Road. That's a big concern for residents, that additional traffic. There were 15 accidents on Franklin Limestone Road just in the last 12 months. So there's a number of concerns there. I support the community plan change with one caveat. That it be tied specifically to an SP zoning bill that addresses the concerns of the community, which we're still discussing. I was just given the SP plan about 20 minutes ago, which does not include all of the things that have been discussed with the applicant and agreed to within the community. So I'm not here to recommend approval or disapproval of the zone change, but I do support the community plan change as long as it's tied to and does not go through without an associated SP plan. Now, the SP plan, I've identified a location to hold an additional public meeting for the 1st of March. I'm trying to get that bumped up to the 16th. I didn't get, before this meeting started, a confirmation of this set location for the 16th. But we are going to involve the community in this process. It's something I've committed to do and will continue to do. And at that point, we would have an SP bill that could be discussed intelligently and possibly address the concerns of the community. The fact is, it was industrial prior to 2004 in the community plan. It was changed to apartments. Those public meetings would have been taking place during Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. And according to the minutes, only 3 people showed up for the public meeting for the planning staff. I'm not sure why that is. I don't have a list of people that were actually notified about the meeting. But as a resident at that time, I never heard of the issue coming before the Planning Commission or the Council. So I do have concerns, and I ask that if you approve the plan change, it be specifically tied to an SP zoning bill, and that the SP zoning bill be brought before the Council, and it will be brought before the Council, but it's not at a place right now where I could support or oppose it, because I don't have the details of it. And as you well know, the merits of an SP are dependent entirely upon the language within that SP. And since I don't have a bill and I just received the community plan, I'm not in a position to recommend or oppose. And I'll leave the rest of the time to the applicants to share the details of what they've agreed to.
Okay, thank you. Applicant, you'll have 10 minutes, and if you'd like to keep 2 of those for rebuttal, you may do that.
I'd like to leave 2 minutes for rebuttal, Mr. Chairman. My name is Tom White. I'm an attorney with Toon Entrican & White, and I represent the applicant in this case. My immediate right is Tom Clemens, who's the engineer for the project. With respect to the matters that are here today, there's 2. One is the policy change, and one is the zone change itself. As was commented by the councilman, the area is currently zoned for RM6. This allows 241 apartments, and the client's asking for an SP that would allow an asphalt plant. That's the use and the only use they're asking on the property. They're not asking for all the other industrial uses. When we first met with the councilman, we had talked about a straight zoning for industrial. We felt that it would be more palatable if we could talk about an SP where different things could be addressed, and based upon the councilman's recommendation, we basically did the following. We were aware that the property had an industrial policy until 2004. With respect to the heavy industrial and commercial areas, you've seen the maps up here. There's industrial almost surrounding this piece of property and heavy commercial in other areas. Basically, Franklin Limestone Road going out to the left from this piece of property goes back to Antioch Pike and Harding. When you go out to the right, it goes to Murfreesboro Road. When we met with the councilman initially, his comments were very clear, and that is he wanted us to meet with the Planning Commission staff, and he made it very clear that the neighbors had a great dislike for apartments in this area for some of the reasons he's articulated here. We met with the staff of the Planning Department on 3 separate occasions. Again, we went in with the thought of a straight industrial zoning. At the request of the staff, we basically incorporated the following ideas. One was the inclusion of a park. That's a 6 to 7 acre park, which you saw at the bottom of the piece of property facing the Harding area. The second was a commitment to do a greenway, which would tie into that neighborhood in the back, which we committed to do. There's a buffer or a no-build zone of 150 feet, which you've seen surrounding the site. The largest buffer zone Metro has is 50 feet. So we tripled it, made 150 feet so that it would be as far from the residential area as possible. We also talked about a number of other things which we'll cover here very shortly as commitments to the neighborhood. We went to a neighborhood meeting that was coordinated by the councilman and the staff of the Planning Department. Very simply at the meeting, some people liked the park, some people didn't want the park. They thought it was adding crime. Some people wanted the greenway, some people didn't want the greenway for the same reason. There were a number of people there that wanted nothing done on the site, including no entrance to Franklin Limestone Road. There were some that preferred apartments to the asphalt plant. There were some that preferred the asphalt plant to the apartment complex for reasons that I'll cover. I don't think there was any real consensus other than, as the staff commented here, there was an issue about, number 1, the traffic on Franklin Limestone Road, number 2, the odor, and then issues about the site in general. Here's basically what we have. If the property stays as it is right now, RM6, you have 240 apartment units on the site. You'll have 2 or 3 curb cuts to Franklin Limestone Road, and they'll be up here as you come out to the site to the right, going to the Murfreesboro Road side, which is far closer to the residential area. You'll have, as projected by Metro, 1,600 road movements a day, 1,600 vehicle movements, primarily cars, I might add. There could be some trucks, but primarily 1,600. The vehicles could come out to Franklin Limestone Road. They can go to the left. They can go to the right. There's no mandate whatsoever about automobile traffic coming out on Franklin Limestone Road. You'll have the exact same blasting to do an apartment site as you will for the asphalt plant site. As far as the buffer area under the apartment site would be the 50 feet that comes around the back. It wouldn't have to be a no build. It would just basically be a buffer area. That's the apartment site. There would be no pre-blast survey. There's no mandate under state law or Metro law for a pre-blast survey. Under an asphalt plant, here's what you would have. You'd have 1 curb cut on Franklin Limestone Road. You would have 80 vehicles a day. Now, most of those would be trucks, I want to be clear, but 80 vehicles a day as opposed to 1,600, that's 5% of vehicular traffic. All the traffic under our plan would go out to Franklin Limestone Road and go to the left or back towards the heavy industrial area, which you've seen here. That would be mandated by our plan. We understand that Public Works has posted Franklin Limestone Road in a manner that would be consistent with what we're asking for, and that is they don't want trucks going down to Murfreesboro Road and to the right. We don't either.
With respect to other items that we've agreed to, the Public Works Department has looked at this. They've suggested significant road improvements at the entrance to the property. You can see where the entrance to the property would be up here, and it would be as close to the industrial zone property as possible, one way in, one way out, as reflected there, as opposed to 2 or 3 curb cuts far closer to the residential area. The clients agreed to the 6 acres for park. If the neighborhood doesn't want it, we won't insist upon a park. We would do open space. With respect to greenway, the same thing. We'll commit to the greenway. If the neighborhood doesn't want that, we won't do the greenway. The plant itself would be in the lower end of the property, as you can see up here in the gray. Again, I want to stress it's asphalt plant and accessory only. There's no other industrial uses out here. You've seen asphalt plants, you know, the buildings that are around the silos itself, those are all represented on that plan. We've committed to a pre-blast survey to all residences within 1,000 feet. Again, there's no state requirement, there's no metro requirement. That's our commitment. I've sent to the staff a letter from the mayor of Pulaski. There's a big difference between asphalt plants years ago and now. Our client has a plant already on the other side of Franklin Limestone Road. That plant would be shut down. That's a commitment. That would be shut down when this new plant opens. So it's a net same. One goes away, one comes on. The new plant has got all the modern and technical improvements. There's a letter that I gave to the staff from the mayor of Pulaski, which says he visited a new plant within the last 3 years. His comments are very clear in the letter. He made an unannounced visit. He was very impressed with how these operations run. He said he's detected a very small odor at the site itself. And when he got 50 feet away, there was no further smell. 50 yards away, 150 feet. We're 1,000 feet from the neighborhood in the back. Having said that, we'd respectfully ask the commission to approve the policy change and the zone change, and we'll continue to meet with the councilman and any neighborhood groups he asked. I've got 1:25 left. We'll answer any questions.
2 minutes left, Tom. I'd start. You still have 2 minutes after this is gone.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. Having said that, the engineer is here. We have very clearly committed to the council person. We'll meet with the neighbors on any different occasions. I can't stand here and represent to you there's any unanimity out there, nor can the council person. But there have been mixed comments about what I've said. But again, if the issue is traffic on Franklin Limestone Road, this proposed use is significantly 5% of the other traffic, significantly less impacted. As far as the site itself, it's going to be graded the exact same way. There will be far more trees left on the site if we do it this way, because the 150, not just buffer, but no disturb towards the back of the property. And again, we've talked to a number of the people in the neighborhood, neighborhood watch representatives and other individuals. We've made it very clear we're open to their suggestions, and we continue with that. Again, we're scheduled for a March hearing at the Metro Council, and at this point, I'd like to ask that the commission approve the policy change as the councilman has asked. It's conditioned, as this commission's done many times. It's conditioned upon a zone change that's consistent, as the councilman has said. If the zone change doesn't go through, the policy change goes away. So it's not academically changed in policy without the other. We're here. We'll answer any questions. We appreciate your courtesies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have 2 minutes left for your rebuttal.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this, either item 10A or 10B? Seeing none, anyone wishing to speak? You in favor?
Well, I was not in favor, but I am.
Come to the microphone so we can hear you. Please state your name and your address.
My name is Claire Norris. I live on 512 Franklin Limestone Road, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak here. I was kind of disapproving this, but the factor with traffic and less traffic, having an industrial use there would be better, because there is so much traffic on there now just from people cutting through that to add that many trips a day would be ridiculous and kind of scary, especially for kids that have to walk and catch the bus and things like that. And my only suggestion would be to add, I don't know what kind of buffer there would be along Franklin Limestone Road. Does anybody know? I know they said 150 to the back.
Yeah, staff, you pull back up where the locations will be of the plant.
It's an A2 buffer, which I believe is 20 feet on this one.
20
one that shows a plant and then have the distance between that and Franklin Limestone.
Okay, so that's a 20 feet? 20 feet?
20 feet, correct.
Okay.
The site plan.
This is it.
No, there's another. Oh, that.
The one he's got.
That's not our site plan.
There's one that shows the site plan, Jason, that, where the plant would be.
It's 1,000 feet between the nearest residents.
Then I approve. I'd rather have that than multifamily any day.
Appears on here that's about 100 to 120 feet from the clearing to the Franklin limestone, still with the vegetation left.
Yeah, I would vote to approve then. I'd rather have that than condos, townhomes, apartments with all the traffic and all that, because it's already industrial down there anyway. I mean, you already have the quarry, and then there's like a trucking company there, and it's a lot of industrial, so I think that little bit more wouldn't matter. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anyone else? Yep. Go ahead.
I need to just get a clarification because I think the traffic's a big issue, and maybe, Tom, you can answer this. The request was for all uses in IWD, which could be a whole number of things. Plus, if it's just for the asphalt plant, we just need to clarify that because all the uses could generate a lot more, as much traffic as.
I want to clarify, I think the language, all other industrial uses, was staff, but ours is very clear. It's the asphalt plant and only the asphalt plant with the exact buildings located up in that gray area.
And the mining. And
getting it down to the surface, which you do for apartments as you would this, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that so that we don't have that confusion.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition, please come to the microphone and give us your name and your address. You'll be allotted 2 minutes each.
Hello. My name is Pamela Ward, and I live at 2101 Mullins Circle, approximately a quarter of a mile from the property, the subject property. I have a petition that has been signed along with about approximately 40 names or so that I have already submitted by email.
You give that to staff and
certainly.
Be part of the record.
Yes.
Go ahead and speak, and then you get to them
yes.
so you don't waste your time.
We have concern about the proposed industrial use of this. We are, this is a 40-acre site, and we are already currently, our properties are absolutely damaged because of the blasting that Vulcan is doing in that neighborhood. Obviously, many of us would not have purchased in that neighborhood had we been aware of their activities. We have contacted Vulcan and to let them know that our properties are damaged because of their blasting activities, and of course there's nothing that they claim that they can do about it because they say that they're acting within their legal limits. This is a residential community. We feel like that our safety, our potential health, because of the unknown and concern that we have for the toxicity of the asphalt plant. There are a lot of investigations that need to be done to, just in my opinion, based on the knowledge that I have so far, there's a great concern for the neighborhood, the residents, because of the toxicity, the fumes, and their blasting. I am, as I said, I stand here with approximately 40 names that I have submitted already, and then I will be happy to give this information to you to let you know that other people in our neighborhood are very concerned with their property values, their safety.
Okay. Thank you. Come ahead. You wish to speak?
Hello, my name is Taryn Mercer. I'm with, I'm on the other end of Franklin Limestone and I'm against the asphalt plant coming in. The other end is the end closest to Antioch Pike. I own a business. I have a house that's in that site with a tenant in that house. Now, I came to the last meeting and I've heard the numbers change since the last time. This is a beautiful plant, no doubt. It's a beautiful greenery for the park that they're wanting to put in as well, but they can pick another community. The traffic that's flowing up and down Franklin Limestone Road is terrible. I mean, I heard the 5%. I want to put something in your mind. They're wanting to compare a residential car to a rolling machine. a dump truck. They fly up and down Franklin Limestone Road. Now, they can't control traffic. However, the part that they're going up is elevated. Now, my business is right there. I understand that they say that don't smell, but have you ever been behind an asphalt truck? It's going to stop right there on the crest of that hill with the elevation. And I'm against it because the traffic is going to create more accidents. Franklin Limestone Road is one of the most dangerous roads in Nashville. We're going to make it worse. There's going to be more fatalities going up that road. So I want to say that I want to be against the asphalt plant coming in because of the heavy traffic and because of the changes that they're making. The big plant, last time it was 35 trucks. Today is 85 trucks. The next time it's going to be 300 trucks.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak, if you'd line up behind the microphone.
Hi, yes, my name is Henry Maupin. I live at 2522 Elm Hill Pike in District 15. The reason I'm speaking is because my brother and his wife live on Treetop, which is, if you take the Google Earth, it's about 4,000 feet from this plant. Everybody to the west, everybody to the south and east of this, which our predominant winds come out of the west and the northwest, it's going to blow all these, everybody says odor. Well, the odor is toxic chemicals. It's toluene, if I'm pronouncing it right, it's formaldehyde. There's a bunch of different chemicals that are coming out. This is the wrong neighborhood for this. I think it's discriminatory to put it in this neighborhood. Would they put this in Belmead or would they put it in Brentwood? No. The road is terrible. I've realized that the developer has the right to develop the land. In my opinion, it should be more houses. If you look at what's around there, it's all single family housing. Most of these people that live in this neighborhood are middle class, and it's going to affect their property values. You can go and study that on the internet, and it goes anywhere from 20 to 50% lowered property values within a mile or so of these plants. And like I said, many of these people are first-time home buyers. They're suffering now because of the economy, and you put this plant in there, it's not going to raise their values at all. Plus, there's plenty of kids in this neighborhood. Would you want to raise your kid 1,000 feet from a plant that's belching out chemicals that they won't even tell you about? And I know that it is it's going to be a high-tech plant and all that stuff, but it's just robbing Peter to pay Paul, in my opinion. So I think they should. Then also the noise pollution. These plants run 24/7. They don't come in at 8 o'clock and then clock out at 5. These plants, when I know in the wintertime, because of the cold air, the coldness, they have to. I'm losing my thought here. They have to not do anything, but when the summer comes, they run 24/7.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hi. My name is Karen Kelly. I live at, 632 Franklin Limestone Road. I moved. I love the street so much, I built a house 3 doors down from where I used to live. That's how much I love the street. It's very emotional for a lot of us. We didn't hear about this until just within the past week. And it's hard for us to get enough people here at this time of day so that they can tell you how they really feel. And many of them have told us and asked us to be the people that bear to you how they feel. First of all, this road widening they're talking about and all the stuff they're doing, I know where this is. They're talking about putting this thing out. There's a little rise that comes up if you come from the Murfreesboro end, going down towards this end. It is very hard to see right there any place in this little area for people that pull out, and they're going to be pulling out across traffic and going to the left, which they are supposed to do. This is exactly the same thing that the Corps is supposed to do. They don't always do that. They can't control all those people. Why should we expect the asphalt people to be able to control these truck drivers? They talked about putting a light there. Lights up at the other end, which is in the middle, which is near where I live, doesn't work. People just get used to it, and they just just don't even pay any attention to it. So you might as well not even put a light up because it's not going to do any good. Traffic is very dangerous. If you've ever had to pull anybody out of an accident on this street, you're putting your life in your hands just trying to help them. Another thing is the gentleman was right about the property values. Property values go down as much as 45% when one of these plants moves in. Another thing is, this is right next to Mill Creek. There are particulates that are put into the air from the actual loading of the asphalt into the trucks. They can't stop that. That happens. And those will get down on the groundwater, which can get to Mill Creek. And who wants to walk on a greenway right next to a smelly asphalt plant? Would you like to live next to it? How far away would you live? Would you live half a mile? I live half a mile. Think about that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Sherry Matthew, and I own the plot that's across catty-cornered from there. I've got a couple of questions. The applicant's attorney mentioned apartments, and I was wondering, has the applicant applied for apartments on that property before? And why did you bring up that part about the apartments and so on? That question. And then I also want to know, the applicant currently owns an asphalt plant. Why do
If you would address this to the commissioner.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Why is he has an asphalt plant. Why does he need another one? Why is it being closed, the one he currently owns being closed? And what will happen to that asphalt plant when the other one, if he does get a new one built across the street? So I've got those questions. If they could answer those, that would be informative.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak? If you're going to speak, if you'd line up behind each other, the microphone, so we'd save some time for the commissioners.
Good afternoon. I'm Kat Lillard, 2104 Mullen Circle. I can't really add too much to what's been said, but my feeling is that congestion is something that we put up with everywhere, not just Nashville. And I would sooner have congestion than have people dying of cancer, lung ailments of other types, asthma, skin problems, maybe not death from skin problems, but many people have skin problems from who have lived in neighborhoods adjacent to asphalt plants. So I am much more worried about health issues and property values than I am about the possibility of housing being put in and more traffic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Springs. I live at 4532 Xavier. And looking at this amount, it's basically in the back of my yard. And as some of the people said earlier, the blasting from the already existing companies around has destroyed most of our houses. I have cracks that go through my house. You know, my money is real. I invested my money in that house. And the thought of somebody coming even closer doing the same thing, and to sit there and hear those guys deny, I didn't get nothing to do with that. Why in the world is the house cracked? You're the only one blasting. And you're going to act like, well, we didn't have nothing to do with that. It had everything to do with it. So I definitely want to disapprove. Not to mention the health things that can go along with it. You know, I have 4 reasons, 4 beautiful girls, 18, 17, 19, and my 29-year-old wife, who's actually older than that. And really, that's all I have to say. And I don't want to hear those trucks. I don't want to feel that ground shake. And I want to, you know, if I don't decide to live there the rest of my life, I want it to be a place that would be enjoyable, and I want my house to be at least worth something by the time it's over with.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nobody else want to speak? There's a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion. You do have 2 minutes. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, first, we have heard a number of people respond, as we heard from Claire Norris here today. I didn't meet her, didn't talk to her until today, but we've had a number of contacts after the neighborhood meeting saying that once they understood the difference in volume in traffic and the other matters that we've talked about, they were far more supportive of the plant than they were of the apartments. The other things I'll comment in rebuttal are basically this. Comment was made about the truck trips as represented at the neighborhood meeting. What we said was that there was 35 round trips is what we represented at the neighborhood meeting. That's 70, and we added automobile vehicles on it, so we met with Public Works. We told them to estimate high. That's how we got to 80. But it was 35 or 70 at the neighborhood meeting. I wanted to address that gentleman. We spoke to him that night. He couldn't have been any nicer, and I just wanted to make sure we respond. So whether we agree or disagree about the merits, we've communicated as to the traffic on the road. And I did clarify most of the vehicles coming out of the apartment complex would be automobiles. I said that. It's going to be not restricted, but it's automobiles. Most of our vehicles are trucks. Now, as far as the road improvements, I want to stress this. The current two-lane configuration starts, if you look at the map up there in the pink area, you'll see where heading north there's a road. That's the road that goes into the quarry site across the way. That's where the three-lane now ends. Our proposal is to carry that three-lane down to the entranceway to our property, and directly in front of the property, we've agreed to a four-lane so that you can have an accel and a decel lane, and vehicles coming up and down Franklin Limestone Road will be significantly improved and able to get by. Again, 3 lanes down to our entranceway, 4 lanes directly at their entranceway so trucks can accel and decel. With respect to the question about why we're toning down the plant, we've got an outdated plant. We want a new plant. That's something I think the client should be commended for. I want to stress the last thing, the pre-blast survey will be done by us, won't be done if apartments are done. There'll be a 50-foot buffer instead of a 150-foot buffer if we do what we're proposing. Thank you for your courtesy.
But clarify that the existing plant is to be decommissioned.
The existing plant will be shut down when this plant operates, and we'll make that a condition of approval if we get to that point.
Okay, thank you. There's a motion to close the public hearing. Motion second to close the public hearing. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Jeff?
No questions. Derek? In the report submitted by staff, they made reference to some potential environmental impacts associated with this facility, and I was wondering if you could kind of expound upon that.
Well, I can't speak to technical environmental standards or what possibly could happen with what's coming out of an asphalt plant. I can say that Mill Creek is a TDEC conservation site. It's known for, has lots of debris running through it, silt and those type things. So it is on TDEC's radar, and it's a conservation site. The site also has the famous crawfish. So that is something else that could be an issue. And it's something that we as a planning department wouldn't regulate, but it's something that would have to go through a permit process with the state.
And I heard several people mention this, and I'm not really familiar with the asphalt plant. Blasting, what is the actual process? Blasting for the rock that's used there, and then the processing thereof. Is that generally how it works? In general, just to give me an idea, because obviously there was some concern about the impacts on the adjacent neighborhoods, and that's a concern to me as well.
I'm going to address that very shortly. As we've said, it's the same amount of blasting, whether it's an apartment or a asphalt plant, but basically the rock would be blasted to get it to a flat surface there, and apartment and or asphalt plant would be hauled off-site. What our client has asked for is that if it's used for an apartment complex, and my client has certainly built a number of apartment complexes, it would come to 100 feet closer to the neighborhood in the back, and it would be basically done at one time because the apartments would be built at one time. If you do the asphalt plant, it would be taken in over a period of time, so that as you move back on the property, as you see, the plan itself takes up about 6 or 7 acres. They would do that initially, and then only afterwards, over a period of time, perhaps a year, clear off the rest of the site. It wouldn't have to be done at one time. That's why they've asked for permission to sell it, because if you can't sell it, which takes a little more time, you're just going to haul it off and do all the blasting at one time, which is what I think anybody would tell you an apartment site developer would do. But that's why we've raised the issue. We would do the pre-blast survey, which you don't do with an apartment, and we would do it over a period of time instead of just doing it all at one time to haul it off.
And after that blasting is concluded, at that point, there will be no more blasting?
That's correct. That's correct. We commit to that in the site plan, some of which we've sent to the staff, and I want to comment about any of the environmental matters. Every matter we've got is subject to the state and federal regulations, and we're committing to do whatever's required. We're certainly where Mill Creek is there. It's just as close or closer to the apartment complex than it would be to us. But whatever it is, we would commit to do that.
Okay. And another issue that comes to mind with respect to quality of life for the adjacent property owners, there was mention of basically the smell. What sort of mitigation processes do you all have in place that could possibly positively impact the smell that is emitted from this particular process?
Basically, over a period of time, some of the older asphalt plants have had issues with smell in the past, which is why we were aware of the plant in Shelbywood. It was new, and I was not involved in that case. I just saw that the mayor went to it and saw it, and I read to you what he said in his letter. But basically, the new plants are so much more high-tech than the others that if you've got to comply with all the requirements, EPA and state and local, we're not aware of issues that would be of an older problem, other than the mayor made the comment it was within 50 yards or 150 feet. We're 1,000 feet away. But the other thing I would comment to you about is that the client has a plant there now, and I don't want to bring an issue down here, but I've checked. We haven't had one complaint from the current site that we've got there. And if there is some, we haven't heard about them. But I wanted to tell you, I've confirmed that with the people in Metro within the last few days.
Okay. And just one more question of staff. Once they do close the current plant, if this goes through and they open up the new plant, say they decide to sell the old plant, I assume the same uses could occur at the old site, thereby increasing the level of asphalt processing in general. Is that just an assumption, or is it possible?
I would have to research that. The property is zoned industrial restrictive. Today, asphalt plant's not permitted in IR, it's permitted in IG. I think at the time, previously it was permitted in IR as a special exception, but I would have to look back to see. I mean, there would definitely assume be grandfathering for it, but as far as how it was permitted originally, I'd have to research that.
We would make the commitment from our client that there will be no operation, either us or anybody else on the site, and we'd ask Metro Legal to work with us in whatever format they want it to be done. The site that's there has been there for 25 years. It would take a brand new process. It would take, in my opinion, a rezoning and have to come before this group. But our operation will cease when this other one opens, and we'll do whatever we need to with Metro Legal to assure that that's not a site anybody else can pick up for that use.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.
Good.
I don't have any questions.
Andre?
I'll make you come back up, please. I think for the general understanding, I think you've explained well about the blasting is the one-time use to clear a site like you do whenever you're developing a property. Can you explain what goes on in an asphalt plant after it's open? What happens? Can you explain the process, what's going on? The trucks come in, what's being processed, what happens there?
If you'll defer so a lawyer doesn't make a mistake, can I let the engineer answer that? You'll probably get a more accurate answer.
Sure. The aggregate piles are brought into the site from another source, say Vulcan. And
aggregate piles of rock.
Yes, piles of aggregate rock. There's also there's also the ability to recycle asphalt. have reclaimed asphalt to be brought onto site and then turned back into new mix. That's one of the benefits of asphalt. It's one of the most recyclable products in our environment. So you'll see a lot of the interstates and highways, you'll see milling machines going up and down. That recovered millings is brought typically to the asphalt plant and then recycled back through. So you've got a mixture of liquid asphalt cement, which is stored in containers, heated containers, and then batched with the stone and or a portion of the recycled, the milled asphalt from another site and turned into new mix.
Is the asphalt, do you have trucks come in with an oil-based product that then gets mixed with something to mix? I mean, can you explain? I'm just trying to understand to help people understand what actually happens.
The liquid asphalt is brought in
from another site.
From another site, from a source that sells liquid asphalt, and it's in a just like a fuel tanker, and it is put into holding tanks at the site.
So is it a mixing plant? Is that a way to describe what goes on there? You're bringing in rock, you're bringing in more pure asphalt product? To
generate the final product, which is the asphalt mix, it is a mixing process.
So are you manufacturing anything there?
Manufacturing, just mixing.
So you bring in stone, you bring in asphalt, put them together. Put them in trucks and
end product is brand new asphalt to be laid down on the surface.
So what sorts of pollutants emerge from this process?
Well, I'm not fully versed on the type of pollutants, but the latest equipment with the plants are intended to scrub as much of the particulates, the fine particles, the carcinogens that is available today. That's what will be put into this state-of-the-art plant.
I'm not sure which of you probably can answer this too. Is there any way to redevelop the asphalt plant that exists and renovate it into a state-of-the-art plant instead of opening a new one?
I think it would be cost prohibitive. I think just buying a brand new plant, you've got the state-of-the-art equipment already put in, and to try to piecemeal, it's probably more economical too.
If you took everything from the old plant out and put in a brand new plant at that same site, is that possible?
Well, the owner of the plant owns this particular site. He does not own where he's located now. So that's one of the advantages where he wants to locate on his own property.
That explains a lot. Okay. Okay, thank you. I guess I heard a couple of things about timing. The first issue that we have to address as a commission is the staff is saying this is against our policy. And so to talk about that, that's a big question that we wrestle with always if we have something that comes up that's against our policy. And I wanted to ask, I'm actually curious, looking at the site, the policy is RM6. In the conversation during the planning and during the neighborhood planning sessions, was any sort of CO considered for that site instead of apartments? I'm just trying to figure out where you build 200 or 300 residential units since there is so much steep slope.
Where would you build the residential?
I was looking at that last one that was up. It had a topography map on it.
Okay. Did you have a topography map in yours?
It showed on that gray area. No, you passed it.
Oh, did you want the, okay.
That one.
Well, I mean,
I guess my question is, in our policy thinking and that we're this close to Mill Creek and we're talking about conservation, I'm wondering if in that conversation there was any thought of just making the whole thing a conservation and not building 200 or 300 more residential units over there.
No, well, typically, like if we were to apply this policy today, he's going to get to a topography map. What we would most likely do was place the policy all on the Mill Creek floodplain, and then place as much policy on the steep slopes as possible. And then if someone were to come in and develop that property, we'd encourage them to stay off the steep slopes in the floodplain. So they would develop in these areas here. And so that would be what we would do, and that would be the advantage, I guess, to doing more residential, because then you can get them to kind of tuck within some of these areas.
Okay, thanks. I guess that's our main question, is we're talking about whether we want to go against our policy or not that was made. Another question, though, that I had about timing was that I've heard from at least one person that they only found out about this a week ago. Is it worth delaying this so that there can be more discussion and answer more questions, find out what TDEC would say about the waterway area? If we want to consider changing the policy, those are some things I think I'd want to think about. I'll stop and let some other people talk.
Can I say something quickly, though? With the application of the policy, remember that was applicant-driven, that RM policy plan amendment. So they did come in with the application to do RM policy, but then also change the zoning from AR2A to RM6. So just to...
Tiffany, one
that
question.
Was separate from the original plan that was made. That was a change. Okay.
One question, Tiffany. Do you know, this is 6 acres for the plant, how many acres it would be for apartments that would be used?
If what?
There's 6 acres for the plant that's going to be cut out. Do you know how many acres it would take for the 200 plus or 241 units?
We couldn't tell you at this time. The density, the 240 units, is just based on the bulk acreage. That's the maximum. So it doesn't really mean that you're going to get 240 units. That's just the maximum under the zoning, because you got to also count in that you have to have, there's steep slopes, so there's environmental section in the zoning code which limits some grading on the site, and then you also have buffers and you have roads that have to go in. So that doesn't necessarily mean you'll get 240, but that's as far as you could go under the current zoning. But there's, if that came in, we would not see that. Since it's zoned RM9, it would go straight to the Building Codes Department.
Thank you. Hunter?
I'm going to ask the same question again, I think, of Mr. White, just to make sure I'm clear understanding. The material that's used for the asphalt is not being mined on this site, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So the blasting would take place first for the construction of the plant.
That's correct.
The remaining area behind the plant would be used for stockpiling material, is that correct? So any blasting beyond the construction of the plant itself would be to level out areas for stockpiling material.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. White. Does the staff have any idea how this body ruled on the policy change to RM?
Yeah. The policy was approved in 2004.
By, well, I guess we approved it because it's a policy.
Yeah.
It doesn't go through council. Thank you. And was the applicant the current property owner? I'm sorry.
That I'm not aware of. So
Mr. White?
That was not us.
Okay, thank you. Those are my only questions. Thanks.
Stuart?
I know we're asking Mr. White a lot, but I do want to, because of some of my questions are actually more something you would know. Could I ask a little bit more about the existing plant of you? Is the existing plant, it's owned by the operators that you're representing?
Yes.
The company?
The current plant facility is owned by my client and operated by them and has been for many years. The land underneath it, the fee simple, belongs to someone else.
Okay.
This gave us a chance to shut an old plant and build a new one, a state-of-the-art one, on our own property.
But your client has no real control over what happens to that land. It would still be zoned. What is the zoning of the current property? Industrial?
I'm sure it is industrial, but the permits and everything belong to our client.
So they would have to get a new permit for pretty much any industrial use, I guess.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think it's a non-starter that anybody could do a replacement facility at the old site.
Of an asphalt plant?
Of an asphalt plant, yes. And as it is, it's owned industrial. What else they can do on the property, I don't know, but that's what it is. As the staff said, it's like 300 acres over there that's industrial.
So you're operating a plant currently, your client is on 300 acres across the street?
That's correct.
And the current, what now?
Current plant's operating on an industrial site, it's just they don't own it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it has a special permit with it that goes with the plant, and if you, I'm trying to see if I'm understanding what you're asking. If they close the plant, then that permit no longer exists.
Right, but the zoning does. The zoning is still industrial.
But could the owner would have to apply for a special permit in the future to get an asphalt plant, which
I don't know. We haven't looked at that. I mean,
could they get?
I don't know if it's allowed. It might be fall under non-conforming status. I mean, there's a lot of things that would go into play there that I don't know if the owner could get another permit. I don't know anything about it, but it's industrial. Presumably, it would be non-conforming if they wanted to reestablish something there within time frames. But
well, obviously, we can't exactly say what a different owner who's not here would do, landowner would do. But it does remain industrial, and there are other uses besides an asphalt plant.
Correct.
I guess I'm interested in the health and environment issues, and I guess I wanted to ask the staff about this. I guess that's all I think. We do not. It seems like in past history we rely on state government and the Department of Environment and Conservation for these environmental protections. That we don't have an independent authority to do that in Metro. Is that right?
Actually, I found out today that the health department issues permits. The pollution control department, or pollution control and health department, does issue permits for those. And I'm not sure of the level of their review. I talked to someone at the state, and they told me to talk to the health department. We were asking just so we could get an idea of how many asphalt plants there were in Davidson County.
Mm-hmm. And that's, I guess, primarily air related?
Air, and I would say water as well, and soil, as far as environmental issues that would be associated with it. The state has air, water, and soil.
Right. It's my impression the state does most of the water protection. I guess that's always an issue. I don't know how it factors into this decision for sure, and I don't blame people for being worried about it. I guess as an overall thought about our zoning, we have this plan for multifamily, which was applicant driven. We wouldn't have had it otherwise. It replaced industrial policy. That much is correct.
Or it was industrial and residential, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
The property was industrial, and then it had a residential piece at the very bottom of it, so to create a transition or a buffer between the two.
Right. But they could have done this before our 2004 change at the request of a different requester.
I think the industrial policy, in order to do the plant, you would have had to have an IG zoning. The industrial policy would have allowed IG, IR, or IWD, and you might have decided.
You didn't have the zoning, we had the plan, designation. Okay. We have a lot of instances where developers have ideas, and we make changes because of them that don't come to fruition. And this is one of those. I'm not sure when it would come to fruition at this point. I have to say that if there's one concern I have, it is that as a city, county government, we have become more protective of neighborhoods, as we should have. We have become more interested in urbanization and density as a partial solution to transit issues. We've revitalized a lot of urban neighborhoods, but we're a big part of Middle Tennessee, and we have, in my opinion, a fairly clearly decreasing amount of industrially zoned property, which sounds great until you figure out what that means, which is that costs go up, people have to import things, more transit goes on because more transportation issues arise because you go into other counties. It would be different had this never been industrial to me, but I am strongly considering that in light of everything we've heard and the level of regulation, which people complain about, but I'm glad it's there. I'm glad the state regulates the environment, and I don't think they're likely to quit in spite of rhetoric. I'm certainly interested in what other people have to say, but I don't think it's an outlandish idea to go back to what this has been under our plan for a good bit of time.
Phil? A lot of my questions have been answered already, but I do have one, Mr. White. May I ask you just to make sure in my mind I have this just perfect. During the blasting stage, what happens when that's through the blasting stage? That's when the equipment all be installed, and then you're going to bring everything from the outside to produce the asphalt, and how long is that plant going to be there?
To answer those in that same order, the initial stage of blasting, as was asked by Commissioner Dalton, takes in that 6 to 7 to 8 acres at the front. That'll be done initially. That's where that equipment will be set up. As you go further back in the property and that the rock is blasted in, instead of being all done at one time over a period of time, that rock is sold and hauled off the site. When that is finished, and it's basically a plateau, which is what we're representing, it's going to be a plateau where it's apartment or it's us, there'll be the vehicles coming in. There'll never be more than the vehicle count that we've referenced. In other words, what it takes to operate at that plant, those 80 vehicles, 70 of which are trucks, 10 of which are pedestrian vehicles, will stay the same throughout the duration of the project. But as was asked earlier about the materials coming in, that will take place. That won't change throughout the process. The only thing that will take place is you'll have the initial 8 to whatever acres are up front done and flattened, and beyond that point, you will go to the back of the property over a period of time and take that stone out and remove it up to the 150 feet buffer that we've agreed to.
All right, and will this, at some point, will this new facility be moved somewhere else?
I don't think so, Commissioner. I mean, you can tell by, it's not easy to locate properties like this, and I want to comment about what Commissioner Clifton has said. This Planning Commission addressed for years the huge shortage of industrial property in Davidson County. It was a debate down here for years that we didn't have enough industrial in Davidson County. This area, part of our argument was industrially policy is a good policy fit for where we are now. And I want to be candid, if this plant goes in there, it's probably going to be there for the same 20 or 25 years that they were across the way. If that was your question.
All right, that just a little bit more of that particular question is, did you have any plans in the future to move that out and then do residential where that flat mesa is?
Absolutely not. And we would make the commitment that it will be this operation that you see up here and nothing else on that 40 acres.
Okay, so it's basically permanent.
I'm sorry?
It's basically permanent, then we're saying.
Yes.
All right. One other question, just an incidental. Some of them were talking about the traffic situation. Is there any thought about having a left turn only coming out of there?
Yes, and let me just say, when we went to Public Works and reviewed the plan with them, it was Public Works that talked about extending the 3-lane extension coming towards the Murfreesboro Road area. My client made the comment there, it wasn't even mandated or discussed. We suggested that we would do 4 lanes for a certain width, or length, excuse me. I don't know if it's 100 feet, or I don't know what it is. We suggested we would be willing to do 4 lanes so that as vehicles went towards Murfreesboro Road, they could get off in a decel lane and go to the right. As the vehicles pulled out of the site and went left, they would get in that inner lane so vehicles could pass them on the 4th lane. Again, it wasn't a requirement by Public Works. We said that to them. We don't mind making that a commitment here, that there would be a 4 lane for whatever Public Works could agree upon with us, so that there would be a decel lane going in, traffic could keep going in, you could pull out and accel coming back towards Harding with vehicular traffic coming on the outside of that 4th lane.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Don't sit down yet. I have just on the blasting, pre-blasting survey or surveys?
Pre-blasting surveys, plural. And I'm commenting that, as everybody here I think knows, there's no state requirement or metro requirement for a pre-blast survey. So you can do the apartments and just blast at one time and move on. As far as the pre-blast survey we've committed to, what we have said is that anybody within 1,000 feet of any blasting on the site, we will offer the pre-blast survey at our expense. And the way it would work is we would contact all those people and say, if you want a pre-blast survey done, call us. We will pay for it. And I think I'm kind of insulting some of the people here because you know about pre-blast surveys, but if somebody wants the pre-blast survey done, we do it. They take pictures and photos. They give it to the property owner. They give one to us. That way, if in fact something does change to the house, the homeowner has his proof positive. Here's what it looked like in 2012 when they did the pre-blast survey. Here's what it looks like in 2013. There's cracks over here. It's basically the old legal doctrine. It couldn't have happened without our client blasting next door. On the other hand, in protection of my client, if in fact someone says I've got all kinds of cracks, and we look at the photo and say, hey, when we did the pre-blast survey in 2012, they were already there. So it's a protection for both, but we would do it only if the homeowner wants it. We can't force them to do it, but it'll be offered to all those people within 1,000 feet. It'll be done at our expense, and we also agree that we'd put seismographs up along the boundary. We've done this before on other sites where there's a seismograph when there's blasting. They're up there constantly. People have said, and they did at the neighborhood meeting legitimately, well, if you put up the seismographs and you're the people that pull off the results, how are we ever going to know it? And we said it's very simple. You pick the third-party monitor, you get the results. We want a copy of it, we'll pay for it. But the blasting results from the seismograph will go to whoever the councilman tells us out there. Any third-party you select is fine. We'll pay for it, we want a copy of it. But we'll agree to do that from the very outset of the operation.
Would the blasting be done on an incremental basis or the max allowable per blast?
The very best and most efficient thing for us to do it is on a de minimis basis because we intend to take it down in smaller increments and sell it. And when we do that, it doesn't make any sense to have a site of 25 or 30 acres of rock shot down there. Obviously, if you did the apartment, I think you understand that process. Of course, you do it at one time, and not criticizing those folks, but you do it to get it off the site. Ours is just the opposite.
Okay. One other question. Does the current plant have the kind of scrubbing and filtering devices that the new plant would have?
No.
So
the current operation that we have across the road,
right.
It does not.
Okay, so they haven't had to comply with any kind of
That's correct.
EPA regulation or whatever.
That's correct.
That they would come into compliance with under the new one.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any problem with what's being proposed here based on what we've heard here. And considering that this was industrial before, was changed to residential, is going back to industrial, I don't have an issue with that. The only problem I have with voting for this today is that if we vote to approve this, we're putting the councilman in a position where he does not have an SP bill in hand that specifically states what the requirements are. Now, Mr. White's an honorable man, and I have no reason to doubt that all the assurances that he has given here today, we will do this, we will do this, we will do this, that would not take place. But as a council person myself, I wouldn't want to be put in a position where this body voted to approve something that I didn't have a document where all of those items were specified and that I could get buy-in from the community on. So while I am fully supportive of what you're wanting to do with the land change and with the rezoning, I cannot vote for this today simply because I respect the councilman's position and I don't want to put him at a disadvantage since he doesn't have the bill in hand.
There is 2 votes. One is to amend the Antioch Priest Lake Community Plan, and the other one is to approve the zone change.
But if we, the change of the plan is dependent upon the zone change. So if the zone change doesn't go through, then there's no reason to change the plan.
The councilman in his request had requested that the commission approve the change in this to industrial with a special policy that would require a site-specific zoning that would deal with the environmental and traffic impacts of the site. So the policy would include that.
Councilman's here. I'd like him to address that, just what his recommendation is.
I will restate that I am committed to working with the community to draft a bill, which I currently don't have, to address those concerns. Should this body approve it, that doesn't mean it's done, and that doesn't mean it passes the council, because it has to meet the concerns of the community as a whole prior to that. That I'm in charge of as a council member. So I appreciate your support, Phil, and understand that I don't mind being in a position to control this, because I will insist on the community meetings and the community involvement to address those concerns if at all possible. If it doesn't meet those concerns, I don't mind asking for the bill to be disapproved on the council floor, but that will be up to the community and myself and the applicants as we move forward.
So you're comfortable on item 10A, then approving the amendment to the Antioch Priest Lake Community Plan?
As long as it's tied to the approval of the associated zoning bill.
We tie the 2 votes together, then subject to then your community meetings and the conditions of the community being met then before the SP industrial is approved.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
Can I make a comment on Councilman Claiborne's concern? If this is approved tonight, the councilman has requested a bill, so tomorrow is the deadline, so we would send a bill up tomorrow, which would include any conditions that you have. So if that addresses your concern. And before you make a motion, I'd also point out that the application is for all uses in IWD as well. So if you, in your recommendation, the applicant has said that they don't want those uses, so you need to include that it's not for those uses. Does that make sense?
Andre?
Chairman, I'd like to ask a couple of questions and then make a motion. One of them goes back to Mr. White, if you don't mind. Has the plant gone through any of the permitting process as far as TDEC or any of these metro or state approvals? And if we approve the zoning,
new proposed plant?
Right, you're not going to do that until you get this, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about what the councilman said. We understand that, and our request is that the policy and the SP be approved with all the conditions that have been made here. Everything that has been mentioned will be put in the bill, so there is no risk by the councilman. Then we have to see if that is still acceptable to the community.
Okay, and just for the public's sake, I want to also be clear, what I think I understand is the asphalt plant is renting its property from an owner, and at that asphalt plant, and does this owner, who's the applicant, do any blasting of any sort on a regular basis at this time?
No.
Okay, because I think there's a misunderstanding maybe if the blasting is actually happening at a quarry where this asphalt plant is located as a tenant. Is that right?
That's correct. Basically, if we had just applied, and I talked about the staff at the front end.
No, I'm not talking about your blasting to clear the site. I'm talking about there are a lot of complaints from the neighborhood that there's blasting in that neighborhood, but that is not being done by the asphalt company, correct?
Not guilty. Okay. That's correct. That's
okay, thank you. I think if we, for a motion that we listen to what the applicant said, which is that they wanted to ask for a permit of an asphalt plant and the accessory, well, just for an asphalt plant, and the ability from the site to sell the soils removed to develop the plant only, that would be the only use is for an asphalt plant. I find it kind of beautifully ironic that in going back to industrial zoning, which I think is not a bad idea from our policy standpoint, that we might end up with a huge buffer. We might save mature trees. We might protect the floodplain and the floodway, protect steep slopes in getting an industrial use. So it is kind of compelling to think that this could fit with what we might really like the policy to be. Given those, I don't know how to encompass all this, that everything that's been said is going to be in here, but
we need to try this in two ways.
Will you try?
Yeah, we need, first we need a motion either to approve or disapprove to amend the Antioch Priest Lake Community Plan. Do that either up or down, then we go to item 10B.
I have a question before I vote for Councilman Domine. I just want to make sure that you're comfortable with what is being proposed here, understanding that as you meet with, all of the provisions and promises that have been made, the staff has said that they will incorporate into the bill that they can file tomorrow. So as you move forward and meet with your community, then you still have the option of amending the bill as it moves forward. So you're comfortable in your position representing your district there with what's being proposed here.
Absolutely. I have no doubt that there may be amendments offered to what is submitted tomorrow. And I will continue and commit to work with the residents, which I appreciate those coming down here for and against, because it's those residents that I represent. This is their district. I'm there to try my best to represent both sides.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, I'm sorry, but I actually have two more questions. One is, could these commitments go with a deed instead of being an SP's thing? Could they be amend the deed so that it really is permanent, that these places won't be built, they won't be disturbed, and all those other promises? Because when you do, for example, if you give property your development rights.
I'm going to defer to council on that.
I don't think that this body would get involved in how we would
ask that as a request. Okay. And then the other question I had is the difference between a non-disturb and a non-build. Because a big part of this is non-disturb. Is that something that could change later and be just, I just want to help everybody understand the difference between the areas.
Well, a non-disturb area is exactly what that is, a non-disturbed, and I think, but their area is a non-build area. They're planning on there's part of this they're planning on, there's the plant area, which I think 7 acres, then there's a larger area that they plan to clear and use for storage of materials and stuff like that, and then there is a non-disturb area.
Right, so I guess what I'd like to be sure is that part of all these commitments is that the area that's cleared is all that will be cleared, and that the non-disturb is, it's just that little gray site plan that we see?
No.
Well, I thought I saw the word non-disturb on all the rest of the site plan.
I want to point out that plan is not what staff reviewed. That is something that they submitted as a potential development. So that, it could be a different arrangement in the future, but that's...
Well, can we see that again then, please?
We need to see I think the commission needs to know, if that's what you're talking about there, that's what we need to have.
This site plan here, this is where the buildings are showing, but this whole brown area, this area that could also be cleared, there's a little note on there. Let's see if I can...
This is the no build.
Right.
I know the bright green is no build.
And that's all.
I didn't see a non-disturb on the lighter green or the more olive green.
The green and stuff is buffer yards and also
so they're going to clear all of that.
Right.
But we are committing it's no disturb and no build in the 150. It's indistinguishable to us. Just instead of a buffer where you can't do, it's 150, no disturb, no build, either one.
At this point, I want an amendment, a motion to either vote for or against the amendment to the Antioch Priest Lake Community Plan. Then we'll discuss that. If we don't approve that, then it's over. So is there a motion to approve it or disapprove?
I make a motion that we approve the community plan based on an acceptable SP zoning for the development that's being proposed.
Right, but what that would be to improve an industrial policy with a special policy that would require the zoning to be a specific zoning that would address the environmental and safety issues.
What he said.
Yeah.
Is there a second? Got a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Give me all in favor, show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7 opposed. Okay, one opposed. That took care of A, so we still need to vote on B, or is that his codicil took care of?
No, I think he has A, and then you do need a B. And my understanding, if I could just throw out what I've heard, is to approve the applicant's request less all the uses in the IWD with all the conditions in the staff report, including a pre-blast survey opportunity, the traffic conditions, and the other conditions that have been presented here.
And
the environmental issues.
Right.
And staff recommendations, right?
There are a set of staff conditions that were put in here that if the commission wanted to approve.
But I want to ask one more question on that count. When staff would be looking and normally having the opportunity to say, we want you to protect steep slopes, we want you to protect these mature trees and different things, I misunderstood, but we're here. But in those places where the steep slopes where you normally, for example, wouldn't let the apartment people build, are they going to be able to clear and flatten this whole olive green area?
The site plan is yes. The answer is yes. That's what their proposal is.
Mm-hmm. So can we say to staff that they want to get them to protect some of these environmentally sensitive pieces of this?
Their proposal is what you see here, which would allow them, it has the undisturbed and unbuilt on buffer. It has an unbuilt-on area that they plan to clear and to some degree level, and it has a 7-acre area that they plan to put the plant.
Okay, well, I'd like to, could we say that staff could be involved with helping adjust that site plan so it's as environmentally sensitive as it can be given the steep slopes that are there? Instead of just going in there and flattening the whole thing, arbitrarily, if there are ways for them to protect it, they could work with staff to find ways to protect it.
I think you need to discuss that with the applicant. This is their proposal.
Yeah, and can I address the policy application? If we were to work with the applicant now on the application of the policy, if I can get to a map.
I think the issue, though, Tiffany, is that they have a site plan specific before us, and unless that's amended, there isn't any other working on that. I think that what they have is this proposal.
That's correct. We've indicated to the councilman that depending on what comes out of the neighborhood meetings, it's going to be adjusted, and we'll make it the neighborhood-driven plan. Yes.
No, and that's what I understand. It's just not. We're not involved in that. That's issue beyond us. That's all I want to clarify. So.
Stuart.
I just think I'd like to say that they have done some interesting things here in terms of what they brought to us in terms of open areas, parklands, buffer areas. I understand what you'd like to see and what we'd all like to see in terms of preserving as much natural things as we can. I don't think it is. I think it's beyond what we ought to be doing to be that specific if we are in fact in favor of the thing we just voted for. I just think it's beyond us to be that. At some point you have to let them develop it as we have voted on. I just think it's a different thing than in a natural conservation area where nothing's going to be done right around it. I just don't think we can do it. That's just my thought. So I would.
I think giving the council member the ability to work with the community and to exercise his control over the development of the bill, I think that's will accomplish some of what you're trying to look at. That's the reason that I was reluctant to move forward unless the council member was comfortable with exercising his control once we pass this and move it on to him.
Okay. Hunter.
I'll make the motion that we approve the zoning request with the staff recommendations as in the report, without the uses allowed in the, is it IWD, zoning district, and with the additional conditions and commitments that were made by the applicant tonight.
Is there a second?
Second. Assuming without all the other uses other than the described plan, because that is
correct. Less the other uses allowed within the IWD as stated in the staff report.
To clarify and make sure it's absolutely clear, it would permit an asphalt plant and it would permit temporary mineral extraction. Those would be the two permitted uses.
Okay, motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we are ready for historic report. Hunter.
Oh, sorry. No report, thanks.
Okay. Parks, Recreation.
We will have our regular meeting on the 7th of February at noon at Parks and Recreation.
Anything from the council?
I was out of town last week when the council met, so I don't.
Okay. There is no report from the executive committee. You got a quick report, Parks?
Very quick. Just a very quick report. We are beginning the Antioch Plan update. We anticipate by tomorrow we'll have the contract for the new orthos photographs, and those will be done by the end of February. And the council is considering, and I assume they'll probably get there, to go to a once-a-month public hearing. We've been in discussions with the committee, and it's likely that that will begin probably in June. So that's I think where they want to go. So no, it will not affect us at all, because I mean we prepare them and people will work off whatever the council schedule is, so it won't really affect ours at all.
Rick, sorry, a question about that. We're often put in a situation where we have to act. You know, we're sort of up against the clock on the council bills. Will that affect us in any way?
I think,
we'll see more of that?
Well, I think that you're going to see both. I mean, you may be up against it, but there's twice as much opportunity, so you're not going to have the pressure that you do when you have just once every 2 months.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, it would certainly speed up the process and make doing business in Davidson County easier.
Last but not least, we did have a good webinar, I think, on that, so that worked out well. I thought the webinar was good.
Any other comments? We are adjourned.